Hello everybody, I'm Erin, and today I am going to be talking about, as soon as I stop kicking the camera, I'm going to be talking about what's on my nightstand. Every so often I go to my bookshelves and I start looking at my books and I think, I should really read something. What do I want to read next? I'll be in the middle of a book and I'll start figuring out my next read, right? So, as such, I thought I'd do a little segment today on what's on my on my nightstand. And these are all books I own because I currently only have one book out from the library, and that is Scarborough by Catherine Hernandez, which I've already read for the CBC Canada Reads long list. But I have other books on my nightstand that I have not read yet. And here they are. I'll start with Stuart McBride, Birthdays for the Dead. This is a thriller, and it seems like it's going to be quite a gory thriller. I ended up reading the first chapter of this before I did the 24 and 48 challenge, and it's a very short chapter. But I read the first chapter of this thinking maybe I might read it for the 24 and 48, and I ended up not choosing it because I didn't feel up to this kind of subject matter. So what this is there's a police constable, detective constable, whose daughter disappeared 5 years ago on the eve of her 13th birthday. And a year later he got the first card. It was homemade with a Polaroid stuck to the front. Rebecca strapped to a chair, gagged and terrified. Every year another card, each one worse than the last. So this is a serial kidnapper. We don't know if he's a killer. The tabloids call him the birthday boy. He's been snatching girls for years, always just before their 13th birthday, killing them slowly. Oh, serial killer. Then torturing their families with his homemade cards. Ash hasn't told anyone what really happened to Rebecca. Everyone thinks she ran away because if anyone finds out, he'll be taken off the case. So, yeah, this is, my understanding is this is the first in a series. And it sounds absolutely fascinating, and I do like this kind of book. It just wasn't the right one for the 24 and 48 challenge. Sorry about that. There's a dog in the park across the street. But I probably will be getting to it soon, and it's still sitting on my nightstand because of the try-a chapter. Another book I did the try-a chapter for is The Monkey's Raincoat by Robert Cray. This is the first book in the Elvis Cole series, and it is a detective mystery. I feel like after reading the first chapter, it's going to fall on the noir, hard-boiled side, and because like the print in this one is super tiny, I decided, even though it's a relatively short book, I was not going to read this one for the 24 and 48 challenge. I probably will be reading it soon. How about that? I'll be reading this soon. Next up, in the books I've owned for a long time and have not read, I have James Herriot. It's a series of his short stories. James Herriot was a vet in the United States. I believe he's not anymore. I'm pretty sure he's retired, if not dead. My grandmother, this was one of my grandma's books, and he wrote a bunch of short stories about what it's like to be a vet. I actually had this one out to read in case I wanted some short stories to break up the other books that I was reading during the 24 and 48, and I never ended up picking it up. And I maybe should have. It maybe would have made my reading a little less zombie-like on the Saturday. But that's one I want to get to soon, but it is a bit of a chunker. It's 5 stories and 700 pages. So that's going to take a while to read. Another one this one, I don't even know why I moved this one to my nightstand, but it's The Sex Slave Murders by R. Barry Flowers, and this is a true crime novel. I watch a lot of true crime on TV, but I don't read a lot of true crime, and I know there's other people who do. Like Big Haired Bookworm talks about true crime quite a bit, and I really need to get into more of it because I think it'd be, I don't want to say good. Do you guys read true crime? If you do you have any recommendations? I mean, this one I think might be the only one currently on my shelf that isn't a fictionalization fictionalization of a true crime story. But yeah, this is completely, I picked this one up at a thrift store. It's not in great shape, but it's not in bad shape. And I'm hoping to get to it at some point. It's basically about the first husband and wife serial killers. And yeah. It sounds a little like the Bernardo, no, not Bernardo, the case in Toronto where the husband and wife used their personality to like kidnap these girls and torture them. So I'm interested in that. And then finally, this one I picked up for free, and it is New Historical Whodunits, and it's a large book. Again, it's 564 pages. There's a large number of short stories in here, and they're historical mysteries. There's some of my favorite are the authors in this book, and I want to read them, but at the same time, I struggle sometimes with the short stories. So I've put it on my nightstand for those times when I'm like, maybe I just want to read something short before I start the next book. I can pick this up and read something short and maybe make my way slowly through it. We'll see. Finally, this one is I am currently reading Mockingbird. Yes, Mockingbird by Chuck Wendig. This is the second book in the Miriam Black trilogy. No, sorry, it's beyond a trilogy now. There's 4 books in the series now, so it's a series. And it's a really interesting, different book. This book is a bit of a horror, bit of a thriller kind of a book. He writes very tight dialogue, very curt. And even his descriptions are very, like, because everything is in Miriam, most of it is in Miriam's point of view, and she isn't really the wordy type. So I find I like it because it is shorter, it's a little bit more, I don't know how to describe it. I'm like totally, the word's gone. The word's not even in my head. So anyway, she has the ability to see how people are going to die. That's her thing. She somehow has this ability to see people's deaths, and in the first book she acted on it and tried to save someone's life. In this book I still don't know what's going to go on because I've only read like 40 pages. And she's having a bit of a crisis where she starts out this book trying to be normal. You know, she's got a job, she's trying to be normal, average, everyday person, and life just isn't working out that way for her. She doesn't really, you know, she can't do it. She's not that kind of person. Before she tried to settle down and have a home and a job, she was a wanderer. She stole money. She was a thief. She stole money. She killed people. Basically, she killed people who were not great people. She killed people who were drug dealers, who were, you know, who committed sexual assault, all of that kind of thing. And then she would just, you know, beat them up and take their money. She's not the most sympathetic main character in the world, but at the same time, as you get to know her, you kind of start cheering for her. And I loved the first book. I already have the next book sitting on my shelf. I ordered both of them in the Boxing Day sale from Book Outlet. So I'm super excited to be reading this. Hank is super excited that I'm home reading it. And yeah, that he's also tangled up in the cord, so if I think this means it's time to go. Have you read any of these books? Are you interested in any of these books? Yeah, that's just a quick glance at what's on my nightstand. It doesn't mean I'll actually read them anytime soon, but they were books that caught my eye from my bookshelf that I thought I might want to read soon. Bye, everyone.